And we're back.
It's been a sec.
It's been at least a month or two, maybe.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because by the time people are listening to this, we'll have released a couple other episodes before this.
Thank goodness.
So this won't be like the we're back one.
True.
But everyone's wondering where we are, I'm sure.
We've been on a hiatus. Not for any particular reason, just the fact that we're all adult people with lives, but that's a boring reason. So we've been on a hiatus because we've all been at a company retreat, a creative company retreat, and there was like a
Yes.
murder mystery that happened, and we were like sequestered for a while to solve the mystery.
I haven't seen it yet, but this just sounds like that new series that was like the creators of Jury Duty. What's it called?
It's called Jury Duty: Company Retreat.
Yeah.
And it's really good. We watched it. It was really good. Zach and I watched it. And it was hilarious and really impressive. And I think everyone should watch both seasons because I don't know. I'm also just amazed by how they produced it and how they like make it all happen. And the last episode, they kind of give you like a behind the scenes view of like how they did it all. And it's really cool.
It's so fascinating because it's also like how do you keep it a secret? Like, how do you keep people from figuring out that like we're on TV?
It's a very coordinated effort. They have a lot of hidden cameras and stuff too. It's pretty
that makes
cool.
sense.
We should start doing that.
We should just
hidden cameras. Actually, that's kind of creepy.
Maybe not. Yeah,
I take it all back. But anyways, that's where we've been. If you were wondering, we were actually part of Jury Duty: Work Retreat.
We were the secret cameras.
We were the cameras. We were working crew.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we should release this episode before the other ones.
Completely out of order.
Even though it'd be out of order technically, but like it's all around the same time.
That's true. These things are happening simultaneously.
So maybe we'll release this episode, be like, hey guys, we're back. And then the other ones will technically have been recorded before this one, but released after.
That's tricky.
Yeah.
Keep track of that.
Confuse everyone. Hopefully we don't talk about anything that's like gonna date the episodes so that people would figure it out.
I'm positive we talked about it being Women's History Month when we recorded the Clara Schumann one. So everyone will know we recorded it in March.
Oh my gosh. It's already May.
I feel like it was like the end of Women's History Month or something. Or the very beginning. It was like very present.
I think it might have been the beginning. It might have been like the start of it.
It could have been 2 months ago. Exactly.
Yeah. Wow, we're really behind.
That show, Jury Duty: Company Retreat, really took a lot of time away from us.
Yeah. We're
busy.
We were busy. But what are we talking about today?
Well, I wore my nightshirt as was requested, which is not the topic today.
Well, so
but Emily, I wanted to clear the air.
Emily texted me. She's like, well, because I was like coming back from lunch or whatever, and she was like, I'm in my nightshirt, and I said, hey, stay
in the nightshirt. If you're in a nightshirt, stay in the nightshirt. And boy, did I. This is a t-shirt that I believe was purchased for me when I was in San Diego as a child because I got super sunburnt. And it was like the only shirt. It's like a double XL or something. And I've had this, I think, since I was like 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah, and it looks like it's got like holes, paint.
There's holes. This one doesn't have the armpit. Oh, it has one armpit hole. A lot of my like oldest t-shirts have armpit holes pretty impressively. So yeah, this is like my comfort shirt. So you're actually going to get the best performance from me yet today because I've got the comfort shirt on. But
yeah. And on top of that,
if you were like, she looks raggedy, if you're watching the visual version, that's why. It's a statement piece.
Yeah. Also, we will preface that this episode, at one point, we had done research.
Yes.
Since then, it's probably been a couple months. So this is
2.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah. I was like, I remember you like texted me things as you were doing research, and we like scrolled back and it was like 2 months ago.
Yeah, there was research that happened. Did I write anything down?
We couldn't even
I
find
can't
it.
find it. So I did some more research. But this is mostly true. I have to remind myself that. I
Yeah.
know that you guys all think that we're like the source of truth.
Yeah. That we're like
Mostly
legit
truth, though.
historians. We are,
Don't
though.
forget. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like here's, I'm just going to preface our conversation with what Emily had texted me. I don't know how long ago. Oh, this will be a fun one. This guy was obsessed with an actress who refused to meet him, and then he wrote her a symphony. Or more accurately, he wrote a symphony about his obsession with her, which she eventually heard, and then they got married. LOL.
Yep. That's exactly right. Which is like a happy story for him, but like I kind of hate that it worked out. It
Mm-hmm.
feels like
It's like,
rewarding
this is
bad
creepy.
behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's sort of like, what if like I was super obsessed with the Jonas Brothers and I was like, notice me, Joe Jonas. And then I wrote a musical about Joe Jonas. And this whole time he's been like, ew, that's weird. Then he sees my musical, Joe Jonas, the musical, and he's like, oh my God, I changed my mind. Like, this isn't weird or creepy. I'll give her a shot. And then we get married.
Part of me feels like you've thought about this plan.
I don't know why I chose Joe Jonas. I'm not even like a I don't know what they
This is
call this,
maybe one of the
a
first
donor.
times I've heard you talk about
Yeah.
specifically Joe Jonas.
I couldn't think of like any others. Well, the first celebrity that came to mind was Beyonce, and then secondary to that, I was like boy band. So I guess
Mm-hmm.
that's where the Jonas Brothers came in. I'll try to weave them into the episode somewhere else. Don't worry. I'll
Don't
bury the
worry.
lead.
Don't worry, listener. They will come up again.
Take a shot every time I talk about Joe Jonas, and you'll be 3 sheets to the wind, Mom.
Oh, I'm sure she's so proud.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. She'll be like, "You're wearing that nightshirt again, aren't you?"
It'll have to be a bit. Maybe we'll start getting uniforms. Like
Ooh.
you know how in like cartoons they're always wearing the same thing,
Yeah.
right? Your cartoon persona on this podcast will be nightshirt
Nightshirt.
gal.
That's fine with me. That's my comfort item. What would you wear? You'd probably wear a hat,
Probably a hat.
maybe a hoodie.
Maybe a hoodie. Do you hear that?
I do. I heard a honk.
It was a honk. It was a car.
Thank you for clarifying. I thought that maybe the circus was in town.
Well, you never know.
Brooklyn.
It is.
Could be anything.
It could be anything. It is a circus sometimes.
This is true.
This morning was chill, but sometimes there's people that are just yelling at you for no reason. And
has that happened to you?
Not me, but I've definitely heard it like from my window.
Mm-hmm.
But
do you ever hear people say, "I'm walking here"? Is that a thing people say?
I'm walking here. No, but there was one time I was in a subway and I was just a little shocked. Because I was like near a door or something. Like near the subway doors. And so sometimes when like the subway doors open, like there's people that have to get out. And sometimes, subways are very crowded. Honestly, that's like 80% of the time. 90% of the time. It's like very crowded.
100.
So it's like everyone is like trying to stay in the car, but then there's like some people that need to get out. And so there was one time that I was like standing by the door and I was like, this isn't my stop. So I was just standing there. And then this guy like, had to try and get out. And then he like, as he was leaving, he was like, you should have gotten out and just gotten back on. Or he got like very aggressive to the point where it's like, bye. I don't like,
have a
I
good
didn't
one.
I didn't even know what to say.
Blessings it was just to you.
Like, yeah. Well, there've been a few times where it's just like, someone will say something and I was like, that was more than direct. That was like
aggressive.
That's New York.
Girl. Yeah. I'm really excited to be there because I think that some parts of my personality are kind of like that.
You're like ready
I
to
might fit
embrace
in
them.
too well. Yeah. I'm gonna become like the mayor of New York. Sorry, Mom Donnie. It's me now. A
This
Seattleite.
the Seattleite. Yeah.
Yeah. We should do an in-person episode when I'm there.
Yes. We should do more than one.
Be
You'll
pretty
be here
great.
for what, 2 weeks or something?
2 weeks, yeah. That's a good amount of
Crazy.
time with no, like, real plans, so.
Yes. I feel like if anyone's listening, they might be able to sense the stalling.
Yeah, oh,
We're
yeah, oh, the
doing.
fear. We're like, what else haven't we done? How's your mom?" Like, that's relevant to music history, right?
Yeah.
I
I
think
know
we
it's
just
tough
dive
because we're
in.
just so charming. You'd said this
Yeah,
before we
exactly.
started recording.
You're catching us with our pants down a little bit. We haven't This one's not our typical, like, well-researched. This is a maybe we call this one something else, like, barely true. Maybe this one's barely true. Once a season, we do an episode
Mostly
where we do
false.
minimal research, and we fill in the rest with whatever we want.
So Berlioz, I don't know why, but he has the name that sounds like a dance. So there's actually,
Totally.
there's actually a dance named after him.
Really?
No, I'm just making that up.
If you
The Berlioz.
I am gullible.
You you haven't done the Berlioz?
You expressed it or expressed it. You said it in such a, like, factual way that it was like, he probably knows something. You would know
Well,
more about dance than I would.
I don't know. There could be. I wouldn't be surprised, but
Wouldn't
not that I've
surprise
heard
me.
of.
Yeah, no. Maybe in France, where he's from.
Yes. And how do we pronounce his name? Is it Berlioz?
That's how I'm pronouncing it. I feel like
Okay.
that's in my schooling how everyone that's the Americanized pronunciation. I'm sure there's a French version that has somehow more syllables or
hmm
maybe suddenly less.
Or
That's another thing
yeah,
that happens.
sometimes there's less consonants. Like it could be
Berlos.
it could just be
Berlos.
Bera.
It's probably
Bera.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Everyone in France is just moving their mouths around, calling it
Bera.
language.
Mhm. I feel like
That
they
was very
just
believable.
was it? Yeah. It's just like making really angry, ugly faces, and that's French.
We are French haters on this pod, and that's
We
fine with
promise.
me.
We promise if you're French, we don't hate France.
No, we don't hate you. We might hate France, but not you as a person.
There we go. Okay. That's more accurate.
All right.
There we go.
Yeah. Should we jump in to this
Let's
poor
jump
man's
in.
life? Okay.
First
So
off,
here's
let's talk about the hair.
the hair, Hector Berlioz, more like. So if you look up an image of this man, he has a really impressive head of hair on him. It looks like through his life, like he lost some hair, which does happen to men for sure. Um, but yeah, he had voluminous hair, and he was kind of rocking that like mid to late 1800 hairstyle that is very popular in like Les Mis,
Mhm.
obviously France, where it's
Yeah.
like deep side part and sort of like a little like a puffy pixie cut for a man where everything's really long on top. And it's just curls everywhere.
Well, interesting that you said lame is because in my book it actually talks about how like one of the really relevant authors of this time around the time of Berlioz is Victor Hugo. So that's Les Mis and Hunchback. So there's
Huge.
like yeah, so it's the exact same time. It's like very apt. I also think it's funny. I guess we'll talk about it a little bit, but he was kind of emo. And I love that the caption for this photo is Berlioz broods in old
Oh,
age.
in
That's
old
the caption.
age.
That's the caption. It's
He
like
was a
nothing about
brooder.
like, yeah.
He was also a lifelong yearner. We will get to that, but
hmm
I
That's the
think
title
that
of the
is
episode, I think.
yep. Yeah, barely true. Berlioz, lifelong yearner. It's kind of a mouthful. Who came up
Maybe
with that?
we'll workshop it throughout the episode. We'll see
Perfect.
if we
Yeah,
get
we'll
something
come out
better.
the other side. It'll be great. Okay. So this guy, he was born in 1803. And he was born in France. He was born in southeastern France, more specifically. And he was the oldest of his family. His dad was a doctor, and he was known as, well, credited as one of the first Europeans to practice acupuncture, which sort of speaks to his father's kind of like, he was a lot more liberal and open-minded than a lot of people at the time, but especially his wife, Berlioz's mom, who was a pretty staunch Catholic.
Mm.
Hector was the oldest, and then they had 5 more kids, and 3 of them died in infancy. Things were great, clearly at the time. And so he had 2 younger sisters, and they were very close throughout the rest of his life, probably because they were like survivor's guilt or something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of cruel. Sorry. But anyways, so his dad was a doctor. He was educated at home by his dad, Berlioz, or Hector, I should say. Hector was educated at home by his dad. Um, and he didn't study music at a young age. That was like not a big part of his education. His dad taught him something called a flageolet. It's probably not how you say it. But it's a woodwind
I like
instrument.
it. I like it.
A
A
flageolet.
flageolet.
Yeah. And so he learned how to play, it's basically a clarinet. He took flute and guitar lessons. He didn't play piano. And it honestly was fine with him. It seemed like later in life he expressed that he did not enjoy the piano and thought that it would have changed his compositional style had he learned to play piano at a young age.
Which is
And
interesting because, like, I guess it makes sense is like one of the things about a lot of these other instruments is that like not that piano's not expressive. Like piano can be a very expressive instrument, but there is something about some of these other instruments that like, it's always funny whenever you get like a piano reduction or something, like some sort of score, and you like have a final note and there's like crescendo or a decrescendo and you're like,
just like,
you play the chord and you're like, there's nothing I can do
and
here.
that's all.
Whereas
I will
like
use the pedal to my discretion.
yeah, where it's like, you know, with a lot of these other instruments, like a single note can actually have like a life to it, where it's like you play a
Totally.
single note on the piano, it's like however hard you press it is what it's gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
Which it's interesting because especially for someone who is like the moody king, that would make a lot of sense that he'd be like, no, piano just not for me. I like to make every note sad. Can't do that on the piano as well.
Exactly. Well, there's this funny quote I found, and he talks about how it was an advantage that he did not learn to play the piano. He in fact was bad at it throughout his life, like couldn't, kind of like me, like he just like could plunk things out, but he was not a skilled pianist. And he said that it saved him from the tyranny of keyboard habits, so dangerous to thought, and from the lure of conventional harmonies.
Mm.
So, you know, put that in your pipe and smoke it, I guess. So anyways, at the age of 12, Hector fell in love for the first time. I love that we know this because that's usually sort of like private for people, but not for him.
12, yeah.
12 years old, he falls in love for the first time, and it happens to be with his 18-year-old neighbor, who's 6 years older than him, and her name is Estelle. And people teased him about this because I don't think he was very private about it. But
He
people
was
would
like, I
make fun
love
of
her.
him. Yeah, I'm obsessed with this, and people thought it was like a boyish infatuation, but he was like, I'm in love with this girl. So much so that wrote he did some early attempts at composition, and he poured these unrequited feelings into those.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that was kind of his first foray into music, which was, well, into composition, inspired by his unrequited love for this young woman. And it seems like he carried that with him through his life. But at the age of, I guess I would have been 18, he was admitted to medical school, kind of to follow in the footsteps of his father. He moved to Paris, and he hated it. He hated dissecting bodies. He was disgusted by it. And his dad was like, you have to continue in medical school. Sorry, I know it's gross. You got to do it. But the wonderful thing about being in Paris was that it opened him up to a lot of culture, a lot of music. He
Yeah.
started going to the opera, um, which at the time was mostly Italian opera happening in French opera houses.
Mhm.
Um, and he later formed a very, like, staunch opinion about this, that he was, like, in defense of French opera and kind of wanted to keep Italian opera out of French opera houses.
Interesting.
And, this led him actually to make his first contribution to a musical journal by way of writing a letter defending French opera against the incursions of its Italian rival.
Mm.
And he said basically that in all of Rossini's opera combined, they do not stand in comparison with anything written by Gluck or Spontini or Lesueur. Um, and he, at this point, had composed a few things, including a work that was actually named after that woman that he fell in love with at age 12. And unfortunately, his early compositions are lost because he destroyed the manuscripts, because he is
Interesting.
a very dramatic young man, to say the least.
So he destroyed them because was there any sort of reason, or he's just dramatic? He
I
didn't want
think he
anyone to have them.
I bet he was, like, ashamed of them. I don't know. He wrote several chamber works, subsequently destroying the manuscripts. Unclear as to why. I have a feeling it was because he was like, "These aren't even good. She doesn't even love me. It's
Yeah.
just not worth it. I have to go to medical school," like, I
Yeah, or
view
he's
him
just
as, like, the
not proud
most
of him.
melodramatic youth in the world.
Yeah.
Not even a youth, a man. Throughout his whole life, he was like this. So 1824, he graduates from medical school and then completely abandons medicine. He does not practice medicine ever again in his
He
life.
fully graduated, though. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
he could have been a doctor. Dr. Hector Berlioz.
Hmm.
Doctor, professor. His parents were not happy about this, of course. And his father was like, maybe you should try law. And I don't think that music is a real job.
Mhm.
And because of that, they started to kind of like cut him off from the family money. And so he was poor for a little while. But he was
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna be a musician. You're not gonna stop me from being a musician.
Yeah. I mean, it's
So he
interesting because
starts
I think he's another one. I mean, it's sad that this is a very common story, kind of, I would say at this time, but also even today. Um,
all the times.
he's like, he doesn't ever really get his laurels or, I mean, he gets some prestige, but he doesn't really make a lot of money doing this. Um, he's never like wildly successful. Um, yeah,
Sad but true.
I'm trying to even think what composer we've been talking about that has been. I mean, I think Beethoven was like well known as this kind of music god even while he was alive. But I don't know that I ever read much about him being like wildly wealthy.
I don't think so. I think a lot of these composers were sort of unrecognized. I mean, even the big ones,
Mhm.
I don't well, especially I think a lot of it has to do with publishing rights and what
Yeah.
publishing rights looked like at the time, because it's not like they were making money from, like, streams or downloads or purchases, like
Mhm. They weren't able to
anything
sell
that we see
albums
today.
necessarily to the degree like,
Mm-mm.
there were no, like, in-home albums or anything. So I guess that's where, like, the Romantic period, like, where we're kind of in now, like, we're seeing a little bit more. We're seeing composers are able to get a little bit more money because, like, we've talked about, like, the rise of this middle class is kind of happening.
Yeah.
And so composers are now able to, like, sell their scores, right? So maybe was it Schubert? Maybe might have been one that actually did okay. He did pretty well because he had rich friends, but then he was also writing a lot of like parlor
Art
music, I guess you'd
songs.
call it
Yeah,
maybe, like music that could be sung and performed at homes. So like lots of people would buy, you know, some of his music so that they could play it at home and perform for their friends or with their friends, karaoke at the time, if you will.
totally. And I think, obviously this was not planned by them, but I think that that's the reason also why those musicians around that time, like the Schumanns and the Schuberts, we sing so much of that in
Mhm.
classical music education. Like, I can rattle off, like, several leads that were
Yeah.
written by those artists because they were kind of like the perfect art songs for college students or high school
Mhm.
students to learn in studio. Um, and
And
so
it's
I
also,
think that
like, you're doing them
they're a little
justice
beloved.
too,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you're doing them as they were meant to be performed, which is something that's a little bit different than like, when you're doing, like, some opera thing with, like, a piano reduction of, like, a
exactly.
full symphony.
Yeah. When
It's
I'm
kind of
singing something from
harder.
Don Giovanni, it's a little different than when I'm singing, like, a Schubert lead.
Mhm. Yeah, because one of these, it's like, you have to kind of suspend disbelief in terms of, like, what the piano is doing. Um, and the only way to get it authentic is if you had, like, a full symphony or you were in the opera itself or, you were, like, at Carnegie Hall or Benaroya or whatever with a full orchestra behind you?
Totally. I'm just not gonna do that for my, like, barrier jury at the end of the quarter. I don't know. Call me crazy. But,
Oh,
anywho,
bring
okay,
that in with
so
you.
I should. I should've.
Just, "Hey, one sec. My
I have to load
accompanist."
in an orchestra real quick. Do you mind waiting? Not to throw
Yeah.
off your schedule for the day. My 15-minute window that I have for my jury. Did you have to do juries in college?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah, we had juries every semester,
so fun.
except the semesters where we had, like, recitals, we didn't have to do a jury, but all the other
Nice.
semesters we did.
I feel like they treated, like, your recital as your jury. You'd usually have, like, a
Mhm.
rehearsal that was sort of like your final check before the performance.
Yeah.
That was sort of like, "Do you know your words? Do you have your program done?" Like, all of that stuff. Oh, I miss college, music school.
Yeah.
But anyways, Berlioz. Okay, so this man, he's writing music. He wrote, I believe, 3 operas during his career. They're all very different from one another. Um, but the one that is probably the best known is called Symphony Fantastique. Um, and it is based on an experience that he had early in his life, where he fell in love once again with a woman, and his love was unrequited. And he learned about her, met her, observed her because he started to get really into Shakespeare productions. He actually learned English so he could read the original writings of these. Um, and so he attended productions of Hamlet and Romeo and Juliet. Um, and he was like overwhelmed by these shows, and it inspired him to have a lifelong passion for Shakespeare. And while he was there, he happened to observe this woman. Her name was Harriet, and he becomes obsessively in love with her. Um, and a biographer later calls it an emotional derangement when describing the way he obsessively pursued her. And this went on for a long time. She refused to meet him for a fair amount of years as well. Um, I think that that is sad. Call me crazy.
It's a
I think it's
little
sad.
it's a little creepy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And this is the one
So
that he marries?
eventually, yes, I think so. This is where we get into the possibly falseness of this podcast.
The mostly false.
The mostly false. Um,
Hector.
he also becomes a conservatory student, and that is where he starts studying composition for real. And he learns counterpoint and fugue, and he studies under Lesueur, another French composer.
Mhm.
Excuse me. And during the same year, this was 1826, so 2 years after he has graduated from medical school and abandoned medicine, he made the first of 4 attempts in his lifetime to win France's premier music prize, the Prix de Rome. I don't know why it's called Prix de Rome, considering it is the French music prize. But anyways, he was eliminated in the first round, unfortunately. and he continued to submit his works, and I don't know if I don't think he ever won it.
His fourth try.
Okay. Oh, good. His fourth try.
His fourth try, he finally won.
Thank
by
God.
writing a cantata sufficiently orthodox to please the jury. So I guess this specific prize, like we talked about, he comes from a mix of a family, right? Like his dad is very I guess you could say more progressive. And so he probably has that influence because a lot of his stuff, he is very much a child of the Romantic period where he does have a very unique voice and compositional style. So it sounds like this jury every year is probably very, very orthodox, very we've talked about this on the pod, but everyone in the Romantic era kind of saw Beethoven as the king of music. And so, he kind of kicked off the Romantic era, but he still had a lot of classical influence. And so some of these newer composers are bringing a lot more of that romantic side of Beethoven to things. And I think Berlioz is a good example of that. So I guess it would make sense that it'd take a sec for the judges to understand what he's trying to do. And it sounds like he also was like, I'm just going to do something very basic because I know that's what they want.
Yeah. He also apparently finished the piece that ended up winning this prize, right when the July Revolution of 1830 was beginning. He wrote in his memoir that he was finishing his cantata when the revolution broke out. He said, I dashed off the final pages of my orchestral score to the sound of stray bullets coming over the roofs and pattering on the walls outside my window. On the 29th, I had finished and was free to go out and roam about Paris till morning, pistol in hand.
Wow.
Okay, diva.
Okay. I also have an answer. The reason that it's called the Prix de Rome is because the award involves a 3 years residency in Rome.
That makes so much sense.
So,
your mind.
I guess it's a French award or whatever you want to call it. But the residency is in Rome, so that's why. Because I guess at this time, Italy is still very much a hub for music, right? We're still seeing all the Italian opera, all of the composers and stuff. So it's probably still a place that a lot of composers, even in France, are going to be like, I'd love to study in Italy.
I should go there. Totally. I should do a study abroad.
Study abroad.
So during the same year in 1830, he wrote Symphony Fantastique. And it kind of seems like he was super obsessed with this woman that he saw in these Shakespeare plays. He was so inspired by her, his obsession with her and her rejection of him, that it inspired him to write the Symphony Fantastique. After he wrote that, it kind of seemed like he got it out of his system, and he was like, I'm not obsessed with her anymore. I actually have a new girlfriend, and we're going to get married. So he writes Symphony Fantastique, and then he gets engaged with this 19-year-old pianist named
and how old
Marie.
Is he?
At this time, let's see, he was born in 1803.
Probably closer.
And it's 1830, so he's 27.
Okay.
So a
bit of a gap, but not horrible.
A good 8-year age gap. Could be worse.
We've seen worse.
Considering the time. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it actually seems like this is the first time that his love is reciprocated. Thank God.
And that's
so he's going to marry her. Yeah. So Symphony Fantastique was premiered later that year. And it was received really well. People really loved it. People clapped forever after the performance. And the press was very impressed and kind of shocked by the work because it was very different than things that were being played at the time. Franz Liszt was there at this premiere, and that is actually where those two met and then became lifelong friends. Very sweet.
That is sweet.
And he later transcribed the entire Symphony Fantastique so more people could hear it. Franz Liszt did. Yeah, so right after this happens, Berlioz sets off to Italy for the Prix de Rome, which totally makes sense. and he studies for 2 years there, and he hates Rome. He does not like it. He actually
I
detests
guess this
it.
is why he probably has that, like, he's like,
That
Parisian
anti-Italian
opera's better,
totally.
yeah.
He calls it the most stupid and prosaic city I know. It is no place for anyone with a head or heart. It seems like he
Which
just,
is, I
like,
feel like this
has
is the thing
no
that you
patience
hear
for this.
more about France. Like, you
Yeah,
hear this about Paris more than you do Italy.
absolutely. But he moved around and he visited a lot of places. And despite hating it, it did seem like it was influential to his music. It seemed like it gained a lot of, like, color and sensuality. This is at least what critics were saying at the time, and his biographer agrees later in history, of course. Oh, he actually leaves early. He leaves Rome early because he hates it so much.
He doesn't
Um,
stay the full 3 years.
he does not. He leaves before the end of his 2-year term, and I believe he goes back to Paris in 1832. Of him. He's in Paris for a long time. He had a modest stipend as a laureate of the Prix de Rome. His earnings were not that substantial. They were kind of enough to keep him afloat. And he starts writing musical criticism or musical reviews for various music journals. But he often complained, sometimes in his articles, even that his time would be actually more usefully spent if he was writing music than writing music criticism.
Mm.
And he kind of was able to indulge himself in these articles by, like, complaining publicly about musicians or music that he didn't like, and then complimenting and extolling the virtues of things he did like. So he was very biased, clearly, in what he would write about. He loved Beethoven's symphonies. He loved Gluck
Mm.
and Weber operas. Um, he did not promote his own compositions. So, to his credit, he was tactful in one place, and it was there. But most of the time, he would do music criticism, um, and sometimes he'd write more technical articles. But
A big
it was
writer, it sounds
clearly it
like.
was not his favorite thing to do. He was able to secure a commission from the French government to write a requiem.
Mm.
Um, and then he had a second government commission as well. But after that, he kind of fell into a struggling composer period. He just is he's composing more, but it doesn't seem like he's, like, making a lot of progress. His money is not coming in. His concerts are not selling well. And he's in fact being kind of screwed over by promoters because the promoters are making tons of music and he is not making any music in Paris. So then he starts to go and try conducting abroad. And it seems like that goes a little bit better. But at this point, his marriage is failing.
Yeah, it looks like in between, like, 37 and 1840s, like you said, not really doing well. 37 was when he did that Requiem for the general in Algeria,
Mm.
and then it's not until the 1840s that, so it sounds like, Liszt and Schumann were in Germany and really talked up Berlioz. They were like, "This composer is great." They were the ones that, like you said, like, list to transcribe music so that people would be able to hear it and stuff. Um, and so then in the 1840s, he decides, "Okay, I'll go do a little world tour." Well, not a world tour, I guess European tour. Um, and yeah, so it looks like, him going outside of there, he was a little bit more of like, people have talked about him and kind of prepped him to go out there. And he just wasn't, I guess, Paris, he wasn't as much of this like crazy new thing, um, as, maybe he was a little bit more novel in some of these other places. And so it was easier for him to go and be celebrated, than it would
Yeah,
have been in Paris.
I think so. I found what I missed, and it was actually massive, and you're gonna have to edit it so it's before he leaves for the Prix de Rome. So right after he arrives in Rome, within 3 weeks of his arrival, um, he learned that Marie, his betrothed, broke off their engagement and was going to instead marry an older and richer man who was the heir to a piano manufacturing company fortune. And Berlioz was so upset by this.
So this is why he hates pianos.
This is why he hates pianos, and I think that this is also what drove him. I bet that this was part of his, like, I hate Rome so much. Like, I'm having a shitty time because my engagement was broken off. And this is also what leads him to eventually marry the woman that he wrote Symphony Fantastique about. So he makes this crazy scheme to murder his previous fiance, Marie, and her new husband, and her mother too. He was going to kill 3 people, and he had poisons and pistols and a disguise. By the time he got to Nice on his journey to Paris, where he was going to commit these murders, he was like, better not, actually. And he abandoned the idea of revenge, and then he went back to Rome.
So
Isn't that
he
crazy?
was ready.
He was going to do it.
It was more than just a thought. He'd actually bought the things that he needed.
He was going to do everything. And on the way back to Rome, he starts working on another piece that becomes the sequel to Symphony Fantastique. Isn't that crazy?
This man is all over the place.
He is all over the place. And so am I.
Actually, I think I need to keep it in that order. That's kind of fun.
You totally could. So let's talk about Symphony Fantastique, because I think that it deserves more than just like a mention, because it's a pretty significant part of his musical contribution. And it is basically the longer version of the name is Symphony Fantastique, and I'm not going to say it in French because I can't, but it basically translates to Fantastic Symphony, episode in the life of an artist in 5 seconds, in 5 sections, 5 seconds. And it is basically a program music piece that alludes to the romantic sufferings of a very gifted artist who has poisoned himself with opium because of his unrequited love for a beautiful and fascinating woman, which in real life is this actress from the Shakespearean shows that he saw, Harriet Smithson. And he was obsessed with this woman, and then later they got married, like I mentioned earlier, which is insane to me. Yeah. So the Symphony Fantastique is a piece of program music. He wrote program notes that were semi-autobiographical that kind of allude to this story, as if no one could make this connection on their own. He literally wrote it out for you, which is hilarious to me. And so he's super in this story, you know, he's a gifted artist, and he's devastated and hopeless and in deep despair because of this unrequited love, poisons himself with opium. And then in this, you know, world, this drug fueled hallucination like leads him to from a ball where this all begins, to a scene in a field at the end, where he is marching to a scaffold in a satanic dream. And this musical work included something called an idea fixe, which is basically Wagnerian sort of like leitmotif. But it's an idea that keeps coming back, like an obsessive preoccupation that we hear in the music that is representative of his obsessive preoccupation with this woman, if that makes sense.
Wow.
It's something that's like included repetitively in the music. So it's a pretty freaky musical work. I recommend listening to it, especially the end of it. At the end, he's experiencing like a witch's Sabbath. It's
interesting.
It's crazy. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It was received incredibly well.
Yeah. It sounds like it didn't make him a ton of money.
No, of course not.
Of course not. But yeah, audiences loved it.
He also includes a little snippet of a Dies Irae, and he sort of like mutates it throughout the work too, to kind of represent his like decline mentally basically. Like we hear the Dies Irae melody, like kind of morph and become this kind of like satanic, creepy thing at the end of the show. And he messes with a lot of like chromaticism. He does a lot of key changing. It's a pretty motivating piece of music. I mean, like motivating emotionally, and also it could probably drive you to the brink if you weren't
Yeah.
careful.
Well, that's also like, I guess a modern day thing what is it? White Lotus? The composer uses that. Do you remember hearing
Yeah.
about this?
Yes, the White Lotus music is so awesome.
Mhm. But that was like, I remember reading or seeing something about that where they use, specifically the Dies Irae.
Probably.
Um, that's how you pronounce it, right?
Dies Irae, yeah.
Um, I think one of the
Have you
seasons they
sung
use it.
a requiem?
Um, no, I haven't actually. Well, maybe. I don't know. I can't remember.
It all blurs together.
It all blurs together.
The reception of this was like pretty great. People really liked it. But then there were also people that thought it was an abomination. Specifically, one person who I believe wrote this in
His
a
mother
musical
probably.
journal. His mom probably too. You're so right. Um, but he was pretty convinced that Berlioz would suffer in purgatory forever for writing this piece of music.
Mm,
So it was divisive, clearly.
yeah. It's so interesting now because like you'll listen to it and like music, like I don't know, it's so interesting because it kind of feels like music is music. It's not like even I feel like there's more like opera can be divisive, but sometimes it's so interesting when it's like a symphony and you're like, I guess when it's program music and it's like, oh, here is what's attached to it, but even still, sometimes it seems a little funny when like a symphony can be so divisive.
Okay, but back to Harriet. I want to talk about Harriet. So, because I was kind of missing the connection there. Like, how does this
Hmm.
woman come back into his life? So after he leaves his residency in Rome early because he hates it so much, he's having a concert for all of his work that he has done at the conservatory where he studied, including the Symphony Fantastique, which has been revised additionally since its premiere. He sends an invitation to Harriet Smithson, this woman who he was previously obsessed with. She accepts the invitation for whatever reason, even though previously she refused to see him.
Yeah, because she
And
didn't see the premiere.
no, she doesn't know about this, or maybe she knows about it, but she hasn't seen it. So she comes, and she apparently is like blown away by the famous people that are there in attendance. And there were all kinds of amazing musicians. Paganini is there, Victor Hugo is there, George Sand is there.
Mm,
The concert was such a success that they actually did another one the next month. And this is obviously where Berlioz and Smithson meet. And at
and
this
she's
point,
like, wow, you're so
she's like,
famous.
"Oh my god, I'm dazzled." Her career is in decline, and so she is like, "Okay, you know what? This guy, he's he's fine. He's like wooing me like crazy." And she receives this well, and it kind of seems like it might have been motivated by some financial considerations. She was like, "You know what? This couldn't be the worst thing for
Mm,
me." Um, and so they are a couple, and they get married, and then they have a child. They only have one child, and the first few years of marriage were good. And Harriet wanted to kind of revive her career, but it didn't really seem to pan out for her. She never learned to speak French very well, which really shot her in the leg. And it kind of
mm,
limited her professionally and also socially. It didn't seem like she
that
was
would
able to
make
have like
sense. Yeah.
a good social life, unfortunately. And so I think that puts some strain on their marriage, um, which is understandable, you know.
Yeah.
But in the 1840s, their marriage is kind of starting to fall apart. She kind of resents him for his success and celebrity, and kind of feels like he has eclipsed her now.
And this is also when he started touring. So she may be staying home. I don't know if she's going on
Very
tour with him.
possibly, yeah. He spent a lot of his time at this point making money outside of France, and I don't imagine that she was like coming with him. I'm not
so
sure.
she's just like stuck at home.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be mad. I'd be like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, you get to run around and have fun, and I just have to stay home.
She also had a theory that he was having an affair with another person, another woman named Marie. It seemed like that
all of
name
these
haunted him.
Maries. It's always Marie, Maria.
Exactly. Yeah. Because their marriage is falling apart. Berlioz is becoming involved with this singer, Marie. Harriet is drinking all the time. Her health is falling apart. She's like kind of getting a little insane because she's like, I'm positive that you're cheating on me with this woman. And then finds out, yes, all of my suspicions are true. You are cheating on
Oh,
me with this
wow.
woman. And then she eventually Marie becomes his mistress and then goes with him on tour, which is a real bummer. And then Harriet dies. Sad but true, Harriet dies. I can't remember when that is. First they separate. He comes back to Paris after the German tour, and he's writing some more. He and Harriet separate. They lived separately. She lived in France and he moved in. Well, she kind of lives out in the country. He moves into Paris with his mistress, and their son is sent to boarding school.
So that's the real tragedy there.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, also another reason that she would stay home with the son too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then, time continues to pass. Berlioz is in heavy debt. His work is not doing very well. He is like pouring money into attempted performances, trying to find success. He goes to Russia for a period of time, goes to Austria, Hungary, Bohemia, Germany. Nothing is really taking, and doesn't seem like he has any financial success. His impresario is mismanaging his money, and everything is going poorly for him. And then in 1848, Harriet has a series of strokes, and she's almost fully paralyzed. She needed a constant nurse, which thankfully Berlioz did pay for, because I think that would be pretty crappy if he didn't.
Yeah.
But he did visit her often. It seems like I don't think
remained
rekindled their relationship,
friends, I guess,
but
or at least
connected.
friendly.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got a child together, so
co-parenting.
I would hope at least for that.
Yeah, I would hope. And so he's having, I don't know, he's kind of like stagnant during this period. He has a little bit more success near the end of his life. He writes The Damnation, and a few other things, Christ's Childhood, L'Enfance du Christ. And he's touring a little bit. He's making a little bit more money. And he made multiple appearances in Germany as a conductor. It seems like he's mostly just conducting at this time. And then in 1854, Harriet dies. Both Berlioz and their son were with her, thankfully, at the end of her life. And he enlists then they go on tour right after she dies. They go on tour the next year. And then he's now married to Marie. She's his second wife. In 1862, she dies very suddenly at the age of 48.
Wow.
But he was very close with her mother, who lived beyond her, and Berlioz was very devoted to this woman. And then her mother kind of like took care of him for the rest of his life.
Interesting. Wow, she's a real winner. It sounds like
she really is.
She like mom outlived children, took care of
him.
Husband, son-in-law. I guess technically son-in-law.
Well, after the death of his second wife, he had more romantic experiences. He met someone in the cemetery, likely where
in the cemetery,
where his previous wife was buried.
He did
a young
not
woman.
waste any time.
Nope,
literally
less than
put
half
her in
his
the
age.
ground.
Yep, and her name was Amélie, and we don't know much about her, but it seemed like they were in a relationship for probably less than a year. She died at age 26. Berlioz was unaware of it until he happened upon her grave at one point.
It seems like this guy has unlimited lives. How is he going through all of
I don't know. But then this is actually the craziest part. This is the craziest part, if you can even believe that. He is so shaken by the death of this woman that he had this brief affair with that he decides to seek out his first love, Estelle, the neighbor from when he was 12.
Interesting. Does he
gives
find
her a little call. Yeah, he finds her and he calls her up, September 1864. And she was very nice, received him kindly. He visited her for 3 summers, and he wrote to her nearly every month for the rest of his life. And then he finds out that his son has died. His life is very tragic. His son died in Havana. He had yellow fever. And it seems like he was sort of like, I need a distraction from this. And so he had a planned series of concerts in St. Petersburg and Moscow. But instead of like allowing him to kind of refocus his energy and give him like a nice distraction, it seemed like this just completely sapped him and he was wiped out and exhausted. And so his health starts to decline. It's very possible that he had a stroke. He went to Nice to hopefully have like a recuperating kind of a vacation, but he happened to fall when he was on the beach. Perhaps like when he had the stroke, and then he went back to Paris, and he's just basically dying there, and he just gets weaker and weaker, and then he finally dies in March of 1869.
Wow.
Yes, very
what
sad.
What a life.
I know. Isn't
what a
that crazy?
Tragic life.
It's also
I feel like all of these
composers
are tragic lives.
Yeah, it also is apparently suspected that he maybe had Crohn's disease too. Just to throw that in the mix.
Just to throw it all in. And then sometimes I'm like, well, we only talk about the tragic things. Those are what make the headlines, I guess.
And his love life. His like
But how did he go? He went through 4 like major.
He was married twice and then had a short affair and then reconnected.
She died.
Affair is like he wasn't
a short.
It wasn't
fling.
Cheating on anyone. A short fling with someone who we don't even know her last name. It doesn't seem to be like recorded anywhere in his life history. And then he reconnected with his first love. Like I said, lifelong yearner.
Lifelong yearner.
Always yearning.
That's the title of the book.
Mm-hmm. Barely true, lifelong yearner.
Berlioz.
So yeah, that's Berlioz. Berlioz.
Berlioz, lifelong yearner.
Well, yeah, that's Berlioz. I recommend listening to Symphony Fantastique.
Yes,
it's a real hoot and a half.
And then there's also the other one that's kind of famous and worth listening to is Beatrice et Benedict. But that's it.
This has been mostly true, guys.
Yeah.
This is probably our least true one yet.
Least true, but honestly, we threw a lot in there. You found some page somewhere with all the info. I think the last episode we probably said we'd see you next week. I can't make that promise this week.
See you next month.
See you next year.
Yeah.
But thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Take care. See you next time.